I'd like to talk more about some of the elements of the Freedom Wake, but before we get there, I find the whole sort of background about Cathy and the process that Cathy's gone through quite fascinating, and I'd like to share some of that. Tell us about Apache Blue Moon.
Apache Blue Moon. Actually, it's very timely that
you didn't know I was going to ask you.
I had no idea, but you know what? I've said yes to the space in complete honor and trust. So I'm going to say 7 years ago. I thought it was 8, but I'm going to say 7 years ago.
So about 2002, 2003, somewhere.
Yes, this time of year.
Springtime.
Springtime. Actually, it was just before Easter. Well, actually, before that, in February of that year, my loving furry companion of 12 years passed. And that was an extremely beyond this world painful experience, more so than I can even logically understand from a human-animal perspective. Like, I don't understand. My family does because they watched me mourn for 1.5 years. It was interesting because he helped me with my healing, with the healing work component with people.
That you were doing?
Yeah, because animals are so connected to spirit.
So when you say he helped you, like he was in the room at the same time?
He would greet people at the door and he would decide whether or not he needed to come in or not.
Mm-hmm.
He was more though from the protection perspective of it. And when people first started coming into the house, I would, out of politeness, I would move him from the door until I realized I had an experience with one client where I actually realized that I was robbing him of really, from an animal perspective, what he was meant to do. And I was grateful because it was shortly thereafter that I had a client come in, again all by referral, thank God, but even still, he sensed there was something not right with this person. And he actually followed me into the room and laid under the massage table where I was doing the work. And let me just say that due to the circumstances of the information that came out through the healing, I was very grateful to have him in that room because I was dealing with someone who had entrapped himself in energy, sexual energy, in terms of rape and that kind of stuff. That was the energy that was being housed in that body that needed to come out.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been very scary because I actually had to confront that person with the findings of whether or not he had been involved in this particular kind of scenario. So, yeah, so my dog was there for protection, but also he would do a lot of releasing. Mm-hmm. So if someone was having issues with the third chakra in terms of power and control, it wouldn't be uncommon to have him throw up. You know what I mean? If they couldn't release it, he would. And I knew that it was...
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Wow.
And even my dog now is very in tune to what people are carrying. But no different than I, because that's how I feel.
Right.
That's how I know where to go with someone, because I feel it in my body. So anyways, my beautiful companion passed. And it took me 2.5, 3 months to go outside the back where he normally would be, because I just couldn't deal with it. And I woke up one morning and I pulled a card that said celebration. So I took it at that point that it was ready for me to celebrate his passing and his ascension, and I knew that mine would be around in the same ballpark. So I had a girlfriend come over, we went out that night on the deck and we brought drums and we did a little bit of just a drumming session in a spiritual ceremony. Of course not textbook, just whatever came through, which again is honoring freedom, right? Where you have no scripted, it's just what it is and it's okay to be what it is. And this was the Wednesday before the Good Friday, and we were having, our family was having family come into town for the holiday weekend, and that Friday morning I woke up at 10 o'clock and I was ill, beyond belief. Call it like flu, whatever. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 days I was in bed. I say incoherent because I was in and out of states of different consciousness. When I finally came to being somewhat normal again on the Tuesday, I looked over and beside me was my journal, which I don't recall putting it there, but regardless, it was there, and I opened it up, and what I realized was that I had journaled 3 pages in that 5 days, then I had no recollection of doing it. The first thing that was written was Apache Blue Moon, your clan, and I had no idea what Apache Blue Moon was. Like I had no clue. And then beneath that, on the next pages, was the beginning of a book, and I was being told that this is the start of the book. It's about birth, death, and rebirth. It's shamanic, awake, like all of this stuff, and I had absolutely no conscious understanding, logical understanding. That's not my history, my background. I had no idea what this is, but I was told, and it was the starting of the book. So I left that, I put it aside, and I went to the computer, and I didn't know what to do other than I googled Apache Blue Moon, and what came up was a picture of a moon with a wolf in the moon, which is exactly what my dog that passed looked like. In fact, we thought he was part wolf because that's exactly what he looked like. Well, of course, I started to cry, and I'm like, I still don't know what any of this is. But I left it, and I honored it, and I just really, I kept it very safe and protected, and I didn't share it because I had, up until this point in my journey, I'm really beginning to think I'm crazy when it came to sharing into the physical world in conversations like this, because people would just go like, okay, yeah, whatever, you know, like, because, you know, how do you one day be like this and the next day know the names of dead people, of people that you don't know, information you couldn't possibly know, like, where does that come from?
Right.
So I had to come to terms with all of that, and this was just part of it. So it wasn't until November of that year, I had an appointment, or I was asked to do a healing with a native elder in August, and what ended up happening is she couldn't make the appointment, and when we finally did connect in November, she apologized again profusely and just said, I'm sorry, I got called away on a naming ceremony. Well, that jogged my memory of what had happened in April, so I shared it with her. And she sat in silence at that point, and she just, you know, waited a few minutes, and then she came back and she said, Cathy, that is your name and that is your medicine. And I said, but I don't, and she knew what I was going to say, because I said, but I'm not, and she goes, I know you are not native, but it doesn't matter, like, you don't need to be in order to be gifted a name and the medicine. And she said, do you know what a blue moon is? And I said, well, I just know this thing once in a blue moon. And she said, a blue moon is when there's 2 full moons in a month. It's very rare and very precious.
So it's the second full moon of the same month.
Yes, exactly. And so I looked at her and I said, but the healing work that comes through is very precious and very rare. And she said, yes. She said, so that's what it is, and just whatever.